Thanks for being with us tonight. I'm Dan Jovic. As Election Day looms tomorrow, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson throws his support behind Louisiana Amendment 2, but some question the timing. NBC6's Lynn Vance shares our top story tonight.
I'm hoping that Shreveporters are smarter than that.
Residents in Shreveport were taking to social media saying they received text messages and emails with Curtis 50 Cent Jackson asking them to vote yes for Louisiana Amendment 2.
I want to see more jobs and prosperity in the state of Louisiana. This is why I support the Amendment 2 on your ballot this Saturday.
But one state representative questions 50 Cent's timing, as well as others coming out in support of the amendment right before the election.
If it's strangers or somebody you've never heard before and haven't heard how this particular organization feels about it, it's political. And we don't have time for that kind of politics.
NBC6 has reported on several city council members and cattle commissioners speaking out against Amendment 2 this week, just like 50 Cent's Shreveport's Chamber of Commerce came out in support of the amendment.
It gives teachers permanent pay raise. It doubles senior citizens' tax deduction. This is all good stuff.
Representative Phelps says it does much more than what 50 speaks of in his video. She claims the way the amendment is written is misleading to voters.
Saturday's election is really, really important to the state of Louisiana because, again, we're changing our Constitution, things that have been protected, things that have been best thus far for the state of Louisiana.
We have fantastic news about the Louisiana special election that took place on Saturday, March 29th, 2025. We talked about this on Roland Martin Unfiltered the day before on Friday, March 28th with activist Gary Chambers. Well, all four amendments have been defeated. Voters voted no on all four amendments, including amendment number 2 that rapper and actor and director 50 Cent, Curtis Jackson, came out in public support of. And Amendment 2 would have lowered the corporate tax rate and caused a lot of harm to voters and constituents there in Louisiana, especially African Americans. KNOE News Channel 8 in Louisiana is reporting Louisiana voters reject all 4 constitutional amendments on March ballot. This is from March 29, 2025. Amendment 1 asked if the state Supreme Court should be able to discipline out-of-state lawyers. Amendment 2, that 50 Cent, Curtis Jackson, rapper, director, came out in public support of. Amendment 2 went down, asked if certain tax revisions should be made. Amendment 3 asked if the legislature should determine which crimes committed by a person under 17 would constitute trying the suspect as an adult. And Amendment 4 asked if the earliest election dates available should be used to fill judicial vacancies. So Amendment 2 proposed changes to some of Louisiana's rules about taxes, government spending, and teacher pay. This amendment is a grab bag of changes, but at its core, it cuts funding for early, special, and kindergarten through 12th grade education, as well as roads and infrastructure maintenance. Now, African American voters turned out in big numbers to defeat these measures. And as Gary Chambers posted on his Twitter page, he talked about how 37% of early voters were African Americans. Okay. And this was as of Thursday or Friday. On his X page, on his Twitter page, Gary Chambers posted this. He said, Black voters are already 37% of Louisiana's early vote in the special election happening this Saturday, March 29th. That's major. Now we must keep building on that momentum. Okay. And he talked about how in Orleans Parish, 61% of early voters so far were African American. East Baton Rouge Parish, 44% early Black voter turnout. Cato Parish, which is Shreveport, 52%. St. John the Baptist, a staggering 79% black voter turnout. Morehouse, St. James, Madison, those are all over 60% black voter turnout. Okay. So he went on to say, vote no on all 4 constitutional amendments. They don't help working class folks, black, white, or otherwise. These amendments are written to serve the powerful, not the people. They want you to stay home. They're hoping you miss this moment. But when we vote, we block bad policy with people power, and every single vote raises that percentage and sends a message to Jeff and Mike, we're not going quietly.
Our top story at 6, we have a look at Louisiana voters deciding on 4 constitutional amendments later this month, one of which is an overhaul of budget and tax allowances and limitations. NBC 10's Joel Massey has more on what this amendment does.
Kyla, Amendment 2 is a massive overhaul of the tax code concerning revenue collections, the state budget process, savings accounts, and taxation rules. Jan Moeller, Executive Director of Invest in Louisiana, is critical of the way Governor Jeff Landry and the legislature went about getting Amendment 2 on the ballot.
Amendment 2 is kind of the governor's backup plan when he could not get the legislature to call a constitutional convention. And the backup plan was to rewrite the longest section of the Constitution, which deals with taxes and finance. So what you have on the ballot is 91 words. But what really is in Amendment 2 is 115 pages of changes to the state's budget and tax policy.
One of the things asked of voters in the amendment is, do you support a permanent teacher salary increase? But Moeller says that's not the case.
If you're a teacher, you're going to see the same amount of money next year as you do this year. Only the state is going to be saving some money, but we're also creating a hole in the state education budget by getting rid of these important trust funds.
Moeller says that the language of the amendment is misleading in that it presents the changes in a positive light and that there's not enough time given for public input.
So I think if we want to make changes to the Constitution, the best thing we can do is reject this amendment and have a much longer, drawn-out public process where citizens can provide input and we can really do this job the right way.
Jeff Landry, the governor of Louisiana, who was backing this, also this had support from the Republicans there. These 4 amendments had support from Republicans there as well in the state of Louisiana. So this was a MAGA bill, and Amendment 2 was backed by Curtis Jackson. Read this article from Equal Justice Initiative, calendar.eji.org. On this day, May 12, 1898, Louisiana officially disenfranchises black voters and jurors. So in addition to the grandfather clause and poll taxes and things like this, and a poll tax was a tax that you had to pay to register to vote. What the state of Louisiana also did was they instituted a 9-3 split in a criminal case, felony charges. And this was designed to nullify African Americans who were on the jury, because it was legal for African Americans to serve on juries in the state of Louisiana. The 1898 Louisiana State Constitution also eliminated the requirement of unanimous jury verdicts. Okay, so this meant that if you were found guilty of a crime, all right, and you had, if you were found guilty of a crime and you had 1 or 2 African Americans on the jury who said you were not guilty, you would have to, if 9 white people said you were guilty, then you were guilty. You didn't have to have a unanimous jury. Okay, they did this specifically targeting African American jurors. Okay, so this allowed as much as a 9-3 split to stand as a conviction. Because the U.S. Constitution now prevented states from wholly barring black people from jury service, this provision was enacted to render small numbers of black jurors inconsequential. Thomas Seams, a former Confederate senator and head of the convention's Judiciary Committee, praised the provision for success in its goal to establish the supremacy of the white race in the United States to the extent to which it could be legally and constitutionally done, end quote. The 1898 Louisiana Constitution eliminated federally enforced voting rules that had enfranchised black men or given them the right to vote in Louisiana during Reconstruction. Reconstruction is 1865 to 1877, the period of time right after the Civil War ends in 1865. As a result, in a state with 650,804 black residents, the number of black registered voters dropped from 130,000 before the new Constitution to just 5,000 registered black voters by the year 1900. So 130,000 registered black, and these were black men voters, right before 1898, to only 5,000 registered black male voters in the year 1900. By the year 1904, the number dropped to just 1,000. So this was specifically designed to attack the black political power, black voting power that African Americans had. And we were also voting African American men into the state legislatures and into local governments also. Okay. Now this Constitution even though it changed a little bit over time, throughout the southern states, disenfranchisement laws targeted black communities for generations. Louisiana's 1898 Constitution was revised slightly in 1913, but most of this restrictive language remained until 1972. The unanimous jury rule remained in effect for more than a century until Louisiana voters approved a constitutional amendment to abolish it in November 2018. Okay, now I think it changed to a 10-2 vote decades later. Okay, but still 10 white people say you did it and 2 African Americans say you're not guilty, you're still guilty. But this stayed in effect as a result of the 1898 Louisiana State Constitution until 2018. Okay, so I'm sick and tired of all these people and all these conservatives and black MAGA and black Republicans saying that slavery and the Reconstruction era and that period of time, the Jim Crow era, has nothing to do with today. That's a damn lie. And they want to keep you ignorant, to keep you from voting strategically and voting your interests and voting for policies that are beneficial to you, your family, and your communities. This is why I say we have to stop telling African Americans to exercise your right to vote. You don't vote for exercise, you vote for power. You vote for power in policies that are beneficial to you, your communities, your family, and policies that are beneficial for African Americans, are beneficial for America in general. Okay.
We're always telling you, you must exercise your power. You must not sit on the sidelines, and that there always are elections happening across the country that are happening in your state, in your county, in your city. Well, in Louisiana, there's a election tomorrow that deals with 4 constitutional amendments. These amendments deal with changing the tax law, establishing specialty courts, changing the dates of judicial elections, and things along those lines. Now, these, of course, we talk about constitutional amendments. That means that they're actually going to be placed in the Constitution. Okay, that means that's the law. It is very, very hard to actually change that. Well, you got folks there who are in Louisiana, African Americans, who have really been going around the state, really holding town halls and trying to get our folk to understand the impact of these elections. In fact, the powercoalition.org, they've been working with Gary Chambers Inc. to do so. This is a graphic that they put up. You can access, I put this on all my social media outlets, y'all. So you can go grab it from my Instagram page, my Twitter page, from fan base, Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook. I posted on all of them. And so they're saying say no to all of the constitutional amendments. You see at the bottom right here, you got any problem voting, call 866-OUR-VOTE. You also have, of course, how you can find your polling place and district. You go to powercoalition.org/vote. And so, and again, so activist Gary Chambers Jr. has really been focused on this. So Gary hit me up today and he said that, oh, these Republicans are real scared. And so they have been using, of course, using text messages that have been going to black folks. I saw somebody on posting on social media, they don't even live in Louisiana, and they got a text message. And so you might say, well, who are they utilizing? Who are they having push stuff out? Would you believe rapper 50 Cent? Now, 50 Cent just signed a 45-year lease agreement for his studio buildings in Shreveport, Louisiana. This is the video Gary sent me that they have been sending around with 50 Cent backing one of these constitutional amendments. I want y'all to listen.
This is Curtis James Jackson. You might know me as 50 Cent. I have a special message for the people of Louisiana. As you may have heard, I'm now a proud Louisiana property and business owner working hard to bring film and television industry back to Louisiana. I'm working because I have an opportunity to use my influence and make real change in the communities. I want to see more jobs and prosperity in the state of Louisiana. This is why I support the Amendment 2 on your ballot this Saturday. You should too. Don't let anyone confuse you about the Amendment 2. It gives teachers permanent pay raise. It doubles senior citizens tax deduction. This is all good stuff. Voting in favor of the Amendment 2 makes common sense. And this is a bipartisan effort. Every Louisiana State Senate Democrat voted to get the Amendment 2 on the ballot. This one is about the people coming together.
Hello, y'all. Welcome to Bamm Bamm Raw TV. I'm Bamm Bamm, a.k.a. the 411 Giant. Hey, hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you know when my next video coming out. On this episode right now, I want to talk about a situation just happened as far as with the amendment. The amendment, they was knocked down. They was knocked down. Every last one of them, they was knocked down 100%. And I commend the Louisianians. I commend the people who went forth and voted. I commend the people for the decisions they made against these amendments that Governor Landry had put down. I personally thought that the amendments was focused toward our children, focused toward one in particular, focused toward our children and taking their youth away from them and it's too much at stake to go that balls in on a situation like that without putting forth every effort at rehabilitation. And like I said, I commend the Louisianians for standing up against these amendments. I commend them for showing up. I commend them for not being blind and deceived by all the smoke and mirrors. Because Louisianians, they got a fight in this here. They got skin in the game. They not just somebody who's saying something for publicity. They live here. They got families here. They got jobs here. They got children here. We are their people. The children are their people. They got skin in the game. So they know what was at stake. And they stood up for it. I mean, they stood up. If you want to fight, that's the way to fight now. We've been fighting all our life in one way or the other. And that's the way to fight now. Go to the polls. Start making yourself heard. That's why I encourage everybody who, if you have had a felony conviction, to get with these organizations to help them get you situated to reinstate your ability to vote so you can become effective in this fight. You see what I'm saying? It's not, it's too much at stake for it. Now, Miss Clark, she got up and she did a very good oration on how the bill was wrong and how this and that. And so I commend her on that too, from what I said about it. But I was getting phone calls from Rob, Rich, and Wynn, and they was calling me, and people was they was concerned. They was concerned about it. And when it was knocked down unanimously, when it was knocked down, they was overwhelmed. They were so proud of their Louisianians for standing up not just for their children but for right. Because you let certain stuff slide in, and then the next thing you know, you stuck. All you do is slide this part in, and then slide this part in, and then now you be on the point of return. Now you stuck in a situation that you no longer have no control of because you gave up all your control. You were deceived, tricked to give up all your rights to be able to do anything about these things. Now you can only suffer. Now as a lot of us know, the Louisiana, or maybe some of us don't, Louisiana has the most penitentiaries per capita of any other state in America. The most penitentiary per capita. They got the most people locked up per capita. They got so many adults locked up that they're making money off of, you know what I'm saying? They're getting $40, $50 a day from the taxpayers, and they only spending $10, $15 a day on them people, their welfare, and etc. You see what I'm saying? So there's money going somewhere. It ain't going to the penal system because those people ain't living like y'all think they living in there. You know, trust me, I know. But that amendment with the children, to take our children and lock them up when their brains are not fully formed, and then for action, and then hold them and then try them years later, now that they're able to conceive a lot more, but they're being punished for something that they did not have the knowledge or maybe even conception of at that time. Now things have to be done about it. It's got to be done about it, but you got to put more into rehabilitation. You can't you got enough of the parents locked up. You want to lock our children up too? The 13th Amendment is the only way that you can enslave people in nowadays. It's the only legal form of slavery in this time. And Louisiana is the biggest participant of it. Rehabilitation is going out the window. You see some of these jail houses, they building them up like cardboard boxes every 2-3 months. But they're not letting nobody out. They're not rehabilitating nobody so that they could be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. All they're doing is taking the people and making them more of a problem when they come out because they're so angry, distorted, and they don't have no abilities to do certain things to give back to the community.
Okay, now there was one amendment that was going to that dealt with allowing and let me see how they phrased it. It was dealing with juveniles. Amendment 3. Okay, Amendment 3 dealt with it would allow Louisiana legislature to decide which crimes could lead to a juvenile being tried as an adult. Okay, so and that's this one right here, Amendment 3. This amendment would allow the Louisiana legislature to decide which crimes could lead to a juvenile being tried as an adult. Additionally, this would allow lawmakers to change rules over time without needing a constitutional amendment. So when I heard about this made me think about the 1898 Louisiana state constitution, which imposed poll taxes and literacy tests, but it also imposed the grandfather clause, which stated that if your grandfather could not vote prior to 1867, you couldn't vote. And these were all measures designed to suppress the African American vote and get around the 15th Amendment and keep African American males from voting.
So let's go to Amendment 3. It would allow the Louisiana legislature to decide which crimes could lead to a juvenile being tried as an adult. Additionally, this would allow lawmakers to change rules over time without needing a constitutional amendment.
So right now, 80% of the kids in juvenile justice system in Louisiana are black kids. So we know that these laws are generated to lock up more black kids. But here's the reality. District attorneys in Louisiana are already charging juveniles as adults. They already last year took kids out of juvenile correctional facilities and placed them in Angola Penitentiary. He just put a proposal forth to spend $36 million on a new juvenile detention center in Rapides Parish while we are looking for funding for tutoring programs. This is not about helping black children. This is not about making our community safer. If he was serious about making our community safer, he'd have took that $36 million and invested in community programs to tutor these kids and give them after school programs in some of these communities where these things are happening. District attorneys already have the power to charge these juveniles as adults. What this would do is give the legislature the ability to throw a bunch more charges in there that they can put our kids in jail for. So a kid who stole a $500 cell phone could end up in an adult correctional facility. And the reality is you end up with kids that are more broken than they are fixed by that. We end up with kids that are tainted by the justice system rather than given the tools that they need to be successful in this life. And the last thing I'll say on that, Roland, is you don't get a Gary Chambers if rules like that existed in Louisiana, because I was a kid who was arrested for the first time at 12, arrested again at 16, and arrested again at 21. Never was I arrested for something that I was actually guilty of. Okay? So let's be clear. Every black kid that gets in contact with the cops is not necessarily a criminal or wrong, but the system in this state should not become more punitive. It should become more prosperous and give young people the ability to find avenues for prosperity rather than punishment.
But again, I'm proud of y'all for standing up, and I commend y'all for the votes on this bill. And I think it's a very, very important move to show the people that we are not as ignorant as you think we are. We are not no country backwood people. Most of the people other places doing big things come from Louisiana. Louisiana has a big stake in what goes on in the rest of the world. So we're not no backwood hicks. We're not nobody who don't pay attention to what's going on. We just showed that. We just showed that when we stood up against those amendments. But my encouragement on that is it don't stop there. We got people who've been fighting. We got people who've been fighting for us, been fighting for our rights, been fighting for our children, been fighting for everything. They've been doing this here for years. They've been doing this for years. They the one got skin in the game. If you're going to listen to anybody, listen to the people who've been in the fight. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to let somebody give you some advice, let somebody who's been in the struggle give you some advice. You know what I'm saying? At least, and then you can decide from there on out. But at least you're getting it from somebody who's have been actually active in the Louisiana fights. Get your advice. Be careful where you get your advice from. Some people just say something to sound funny. Some people just say something to attain what they want. Some people just say something because they're ignorant to what's going on. So please do your research, do your study. Look for the people who've been fighting for Louisiana all this time. And that's in any situation, in any city, any state. Look to your people who've been doing things. Look for your people who've been fighting. Look at your people who may not been getting all the pats on the back, but have been doing the dirt work, who have been digging the ground, making the foundations. Start being conscious of what's going on around you, because it ain't getting no better. We got to do something to help our children and stop some of this violence. Stop, like I said, take some of the people who was a part of it and listen to some of their ideas. Let them try. You know, it's worth a try before you start just locking everybody up and locking our children up and put them into the form, preparing them for slavery at 13 and 14 years old. All you doing is prepping them, holding them 4 years, and then now you introduce them into modern day slavery. I mean, that's that's my take on it. And like I say, I'm gonna have my opinion. I'm gonna say, I have not been fighting as long as many dudes who have, and I have not can say that I have been fighting as hard as they have, but I can't say that I am as intuitive about the situation that they are. But I do know, have common sense to look to the right people for my advice on a situation. The people who done got their hands dirty, doing what need to be done. Not somebody sitting back in a chair with a pretty smile on their face or with a little money in their hand in their pocket. So again, I'm gonna say I commend y'all, Louisiana, for standing up, but I want y'all to be careful and be mindful that this is just the start, and you got to be vigilant. Again, I commend y'all. Thank y'all. Love y'all. Hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you know when my next video come out. Peace.
Let's get straight into our election results tonight. Louisiana Constitutional Amendment 1. The amendment would have allowed the Louisiana legislature to create trial courts of specialized jurisdiction and provide Supreme Court original jurisdiction to discipline out-of-state lawyers. And with only 64% of voters saying no, Amendment 1 fails. Voters tonight also rejecting Amendment 2, which would have revised Article 7 of the Constitution of Louisiana, including revisions to lower the maximum rate of income tax. It would have also increased income tax reductions for citizens over 65, provide for a government growth limit, modify operation of certain constitutional funds, provide for property tax exemptions, retaining the homestead exemption, and exemption for religious organizations. It would have also provided a permanent teacher salary increase by requiring a surplus payment to teacher retirement debt and make other modifications. Amendment 3 is about who decides which crimes are serious enough for kids under 17 to be tried as adults. Right now, the state constitution has a specific list for crimes for this. The amendment would have taken that list out of the Constitution and let lawmakers decide which crimes should qualify through state law instead. Amendment 3 has also failed tonight, with 66% of voters saying no. Amendment 4 is a companion to Amendment 1. It determines how judges for the new courts created by the legislature would be elected. Now, all 4 amendments tonight have been rejected by voters, with a majority saying no to Amendment 4.
Again, 50 Cent just showed up in Louisiana very recently. Let's talk to somebody who is a lifelong resident of Louisiana, activist Gary Chambers Jr. So, Gary, you sent me that this morning. So you heard 50 Cent there talking about Amendment 2. This is from the Power Coalition. They say this amendment would change some of Louisiana's rules about taxes, government spending, and teachers' pay. It is a grab bag of changes, but at its core, it cuts funding for early, special, and K-12 education, as well as roads and infrastructure maintenance. Explain.
Thank you again, Roland, for having us be a part of this conversation. You know, I wish 50 would have tried something else today other than interfering in our politics. But the reality is it's about what's good for him. But the truth of this is, Roland, they are restructuring the entirety of our tax code to help people like 50 Cent. Out-of-state business owners are going to be able to get more money in tax deductions in order to pay for this. People who are working class folks, school teachers, bus drivers, people who are auto mechanics, people who are people that work in restaurants, you're going to end up paying more in taxes because they're taxing more things in sales taxes. Teachers, this is a stipend that they're going to make permanent. It is not a raise. Teachers are not going to get any additional money in their pay. And a matter of fact, because of the changes in the sales taxes, their money is going to get ate up in more taxes rather than a serious substantive raise for our teachers. Roland, this has gotten so desperate for the governor that he was at the White House the other day, caught on a hot mic talking to Mike Johnson about this issue. And that's why they call 50, because at the end of the day, 50 is a businessman looking to advance himself in his business. And I don't have an issue with 50 coming to Shreveport and doing business. I don't have an issue with him buying up property. I don't have an issue with him attempting to revitalize Shreveport. I do have an issue with you saying that this is something that's good for us because you heard it from some white politicians in our state. I would also tell you that Democrats in the state Senate did vote for this, but ask black folks in the state of Louisiana if they showed up overwhelmingly for the Democrats that are in the Senate. The answer is no. We've had abysmal voter turnout in this state over the last couple of years. We've never had, in Baton Rouge, I looked this up recently, Roland, in Baton Rouge in the last 20 years, there's not been a single legislative race where 50% of the people showed up to vote. So it's telling me that a senator supported this is not telling me that this is what the people of the state of Louisiana support. Also, right now, 37% of turnout in the state of Louisiana is black. If 12 to 15% of white people agree with what black voters are saying right now in this state, we end up defeating the governor and sending a message to him and the state legislature that you got to do better than this. The other thing is, we don't need confusion. We're telling people to vote no on all four. To have 50 come in and say vote yes on two, that's entering in confusion to a simple message, no on all four, because they're all bad for the people of Louisiana.
Did the Power Coalition, did you or any others, did 50 Cent reach out to black activists to talk to them about any of this?
I've never had a conversation with 50. I reached out to you. I reached out to some other folks on the national level who I felt may have a relationship with the brother, because look, you may not know, okay? I'm trying to give the brother the benefit of the doubt. 50, you may not understand how this will hurt working class people, how this is gonna hurt poor people. You may not have read the legislation because it's such a complicated piece of legislation that people sued in order to have it removed from the ballot because the language is so long and complicated because it's confusing. The reality is this policy is gonna restructure our tax plan, cost poor people more money, help rich people keep more of their money, and it's a bad deal for the working class people of Louisiana. It is also disappointing when black folks who have acquired a certain level of wealth talk to wealthy white people to come then tell black folks what they ought to do. I think that's a disingenuous position. I can appreciate him coming into our state, but oh boy, mind your business when it comes to this one.
So, and so here's the deal. Let's be real clear. Jeff Landry is MAGA to his core. And it's not like this is about black folk.
Roland, you know what blows me about this? I wasn't going to go there, but I'm going to go there. 50 wouldn't say nothing about the national politics that impacts the entirety of black people in America. Couldn't get you to open your mouth about what black folks should do in the presidential election. Now we got the Department of Education being torn down, where black folks are questioning about so many funding mechanisms that take care of black children, special needs children. You use special needs children in your messaging while they're dismantling the Department of Education, and you're trusting the people who are aiding and abetting that process to govern the state of Louisiana with just and equitable policies. If you don't want to say nothing about the national politics where you have national influence, please don't come down here meddling in our local state issues when you have a platform to be able to influence black people all over this country. But it seems you only want to use that when it's beneficial to you, and I call bullshit on that.
So let's go through these amendments for folk who don't understand. First off, Amendment 1 would allow the Louisiana legislature to create trial courts of specialized jurisdiction and provide Supreme Court original jurisdiction to discipline out-of-state lawyers. Walk us through that.
So this basically says that if an out-of-state lawyer does something that the courts oppose, that they give them the ability to create special courts. Roland, you understand the complexities of what it takes to put something into the Constitution. This gives them broad powers to create new courts. We oppose that. While specialty courts can be a benefit, we don't want new broad sweeping powers for them to go in and create specialty courts that they're going to end up penalizing lawyers with. The Supreme Court of the state of Louisiana can already deal with out-of-state lawyers. We don't need a new court system to do it. More bureaucracy.
Okay, let's go to Amendment 4 would allow the state to fill the vacancies for new courts using the earliest election date allowed by state law, which are often low turnouts.
They want to do just what they're doing right here in this March 29th election where most people aren't paying attention. The governor was caught on a hot mic saying they thought the turnout was going to be 12%. Now they're predicting that the turnout is going to be around 22%. They know that low turnout elections allow them to get judges of their choosing on the bench, and that does not benefit the global population of this state to get an equitable and fair judiciary.
Local election headquarters, if you have not done so, remember to get out and vote in tomorrow's election. Lots of important things are on the ballot, including 4 constitutional amendments. Amendment 2 is getting a lot of controversy over its wide-ranging tax overhaul. And of course, as we just mentioned, Louisiana voters will go to the polls to decide on those 4 amendments. NBC 10's Joel Massey has more on what each amendment means.
Amendment 1 has to do with specialty trial courts and discipline of lawyers. It would give state lawmakers new, broader authority to create regional or statewide specialty courts. Currently, the Louisiana legislature can only create specialty courts such as drug courts or family preservation courts within a parish or judicial district. The amendment would also clarify that under the Louisiana Constitution, the state Supreme Court has authority over disciplinary cases involving lawyer misconduct by out-of-state attorneys working in Louisiana. Amendment 2 is a massive overhaul of the tax code concerning revenue collections, the state budget process, savings accounts, and taxation rules. Governor Jeff Landry says it reduces Louisiana's income tax rate and provides the ability to increase funding for infrastructure. Teacher unions support Amendment 2 because it would make a temporary $2,000 pay raise permanent by paying down retirement debt. Invest Louisiana is one of several groups who oppose Amendment 2, saying that the ballot language does not explain the extensive changes that will be made to the Constitution. Amendment 3 deals with the prosecution of juveniles as adults for felony crimes. Right now, there are 16 specific crimes for which people under the age of 17 can be charged as adults. A vote for the proposed amendment would remove that list and allow lawmakers to more easily expand the list of felony offenses in law. Amendment 4 would change the timeline for elections for vacant and newly created judgeships, requiring them to happen during the next gubernatorial or congressional elections in the next 12 months. Supporters of Amendment 4 say by limiting the number of elections the state holds, it will save money on election administration costs. Some opponents have argued the requirements for filling vacant judgeships should be changed via state statute rather than cemented in the Constitution.
He posted a graphic on this election here. This is how he broke it down. He calls Amendment 1 shady specialty courts. Amendment 2 tax cuts for the rich. Amendment 3 dismantling juvenile justice. Amendment 4 tinkering with judicial elections.
I love it. I love it. It is short, to the point, and accurate to what this is. These policies are all bad for the state of Louisiana. I really hope that 50 finds some new relationships in our state so that he doesn't come meddling in and trying to tell black folks. And let me tell you something. I know he doesn't care, but there's not a single black person that I've talked to today that felt anything positive from getting that text message from 50. And I would hope that somebody like him would not allow people to use him as a tool, because if you are as bad as you say you are, then you should be coming in, influencing and changing things rather than getting those people to use you like a piece of equipment.
This was that you mentioned the video, the hot mic. This is it. This is when MAGA Governor Jeff Landry was in Washington, D.C., and he's here with House Speaker Mike Johnson. Folks, listen to this.
What's the anticipated turnout? Well, we thought it would be 12, but it looked like it might be 18%. Yeah.
Johnson, Speaker of the House from Louisiana, Shreveport.
I try to tell folks all the time, you got folks from the 50th ranked state in the nation running the whole damn country. And I've been screaming to pay attention to the elections in Louisiana because this little raggedy place that people try to ignore is punching above its weight every day. You got a guy from Caddo Parish, Louisiana, standing at the White House with Jeff Landry, caught on a hot mic. These same people are justifying folks who can't even text correctly, can't even operate a simple process of evaluation within their government. And these are the people that you want to trust with the government. The rest of the country should pay attention to these deep South states, because people like Jeff Landry are friends with people like Mike Johnson, and Mike Johnson is dismantling the country before our eyes with Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And if you ignore these elections, if you're not paying attention to what's happening here, it'll be knocking on your door soon enough.
And folks, if you want to understand why it's important when you talk about how they want to change the law to benefit business owners, you might say, well, okay, but what's the big deal? Where does Louisiana stand? Go to my iPad. These are the rankings, y'all. When it comes to crime and corrections, Louisiana, the 50th ranked state in America. The economy, the 49th ranked state. Education, 47th. Fiscal stability, 41st. Healthcare, 46th. Infrastructure, 49th. Natural environment, 49th. Opportunity, 44th. That's not where you want to be. So the highest ranking for Louisiana, Gary, is fiscal stability at 41. You don't want to be in the bottom of states in America.
So with a 41st ranked fiscal stability, you're going to go in and now move the money that we put in stability funds. You're going to move the money that we put in rainy day funds. You're going to move. We already in the bottom 10 of the whole country. I tell people all the time, there are people in this state who love to be first in the worst. There are people here who are committed to being great at being the last. And I think that we have to make a collective decision that you won't allow people with small thinking to have a big impact. Okay? And the way that you minimize that is by supporting people and the elections and the initiatives that are happening in the places that nobody else is expecting to have an impact on your life. Trump understands that these people are simple-minded like Mike Johnson. Trump understands that they are linear focused on one thing, and that is white supremacy and religious control within this country. And whatever they do in order to make that happen, they don't care what it costs you or how uncomfortable it makes your life, as long as they accomplish that goal. They don't care how much Trump destroys other aspects of the government if it helps them accomplish their end goal, which is putting more mediocre white men in positions of power over you.